If you needed any more proof that Drake's latest album flopped and that he's spiraling over it, look no further. As his newest record struggles on the charts and the entire industry watches his decline, hip-hop is celebrating Kendrick Lamar's success. And what does Drake do in response? Instead of focusing on making genuinely good music, he's running from the studio once again, leading into his lawsuit in ways that make him look even more desperate. Just when you thought he couldn't lose any more respect, he finds a new way. After failing to regain momentum with his album, Drake is now doubling down on his lawsuit, pushing it further than ever before. With everything happening, from Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show to the commercial failure of Drake's latest release, the OVO rapper is making this legal battle even messier. And when you see what he's going after now, you might seriously question whether he can even call himself a rapper anymore. But before we break down just how disastrous this has become for Drake, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Now let's get into it. It's honestly unbelievable that any artist, let alone one of Drake's stature, would go to these lengths just to validate their own delusions instead of accepting reality. Rather than admitting where his career stands, Drake and his team are complicating this lawsuit to an extreme degree, cementing his status as a master manipulator. From pretending to be getting back to the music, while actively undermining hip-hop culture, to twisting the truth behind his album's lackluster numbers, Drake is now in full damage control mode. No matter how you interpret the numbers, his album had industry support. It was plastered all over streaming platforms, featured in every playlist, and yet still failed to make the impact he expected. But instead of taking accountability, he's doing something even worse, flat-out lying. Drake is now fully committed to rewriting reality just to keep his remaining fans engaged, ensuring they don't just support him, but also lash out at his critics. He's fueling a victim narrative more aggressively than we've ever seen from any artist before. The biggest example? His relentless claims that the industry is suppressing him and actively working to ruin his career. And of course, these claims become even more ridiculous when you consider what he's now saying in relation to the Super Bowl. Drake's desperation has reached new heights, and this lawsuit is proof that he's willing to do anything to avoid facing the truth. But what do you think? Is Drake really being suppressed, or is he just making excuses for his failures? At this point, it's almost impossible to take anything Drake and his diehard supporters say seriously. No matter how obvious the truth is, his fans are willing to twist reality just to help him secure a win. They've made it clear that no matter what he does, they will stand by him, even at the cost of disrespecting hip-hop itself. And now, the latest narrative they're pushing is beyond ridiculous. They're trying to paint Kendrick Lamar as an industry plant, claiming that his success is fake and built on lies. But while the rest of us can see that Drake is clearly on the wrong side of everything, it seems he refuses to accept reality. And that brings us to his latest move in this lawsuit, one that comes after watching Kendrick achieve unprecedented success, dominate the Super Bowl stage, and prove his influence is stronger than ever. Despite dropping For All the Dogs, Scary Hours edition in an attempt to reclaim his spot, Drake simply hasn't been able to return to the level he once held. And now, in what feels like a last-ditch effort to prove his career isn't completely finished, Drake is doubling down on his lawsuit, desperately clinging to the same claims. This time, he's not just whining about Not Like Us and its impact, he's also calling out his own label, accusing them of trying to back away from this lawsuit. He's even suggesting that they expected him to drop it altogether, only to be blindsided when he decided to push forward. According to Drake, these supposed delays in the case were intentional, orchestrated by his label to weaken his position. And now, he's tying all of it back to one major event, the Super Bowl. Drake and his team are now claiming that his label allowed Kendrick to perform Not Like Us at the Super Bowl as part of some greater conspiracy to destroy Drake's career. They argue that Kendrick's performance, watched by over 130 million people, wasn't just entertainment, but a calculated move by the label to elevate Kendrick, while permanently damaging Drake's reputation. And as if that wasn't wild enough, they're now suggesting that the messaging behind Kendrick's show reveals hidden motives that prove the label has been plotting against him all along. At this point, it's clear. Drake is no longer fighting for his career. He's fighting against reality itself. Drake and his team are now pushing the idea that Not Like Us was always a premeditated attempt to ruin his career. And now, by bringing in the timing of the Super Bowl and its massive viewership, Drake is escalating things further, dragging one of hip-hop's biggest cultural moments into his narrative of victimhood. The fact that he's still making these ridiculous claims, all because he lost a rap battle, shows that truly nothing is off the table for him. I've said before that Drake was waiting for this exact moment, to play the victim in the biggest way possible. But to see him actually go through with it, using this as a reason to go after his label and not like Hughes, is beyond pathetic. He's now arguing that the lyrics and messaging of the track have ruined him, but the truth is simple. He lost a rap battle, and his image took a hit. That's just how hip-hop works. The problem is, Drake has no real argument here. No matter how much he whines, no matter how much he tries to play the victim, the reality is clear. Drake knowingly stepped into a rap beef and was fully aware of the consequences. In the past, he had no issue when diss tracks damaged other rappers' reputations. He was perfectly fine when he was the one throwing shots. But now that he's on the receiving end, suddenly, he wants to act like the rules don't apply to him. And to make things worse, on his new album SSS for You, Drake is still dissing other artists, whether it's Joe Budden or Kendrick Lamar himself. That just proves he hasn't learned anything. Drake has built his entire career off sneak dissing and taking shots at other artists. Yet now, he's trying to use legal action to shield himself from the very thing he's been doing for years. You can't act like the tough guy in hip-hop and then turn around and play the victim in a courtroom. And that's exactly why so many people, including myself, want to move on from the Drake era. At this point, he's beyond redeeming his legacy, because never in the history of hip-hop have we seen a rapper stoop this low.
I'm at the point now where I just want to I feel like maybe we talked about this the other day, but I feel like I'm kind of introducing the concept in my mind of a graceful exit.
Drake, once considered one of the biggest names in hip-hop, is now actively trying to ruin the very foundation of how rappers and artists express themselves. His bitterness has reached a point where he's not just trying to rewrite the history of his beef with Kendrick Lamar. He's dragging hip-hop's biggest cultural moments, like the Super Bowl, into his narrative. No matter how you feel about Drake or Kendrick, the reality is that hip-hop is thriving in ways we've never seen before. But instead of embracing that, Drake is doing everything he can to tear it down just because he lost. As ridiculous as some of Drake's moves have been, this one is beyond pathetic. He still raps like he's on top on tracks like SSS for You and Give Me a Hug, walking around on tour as if nothing happened, pretending he won this battle. But at the same time, he's making one of the weakest moves in hip-hop history. You can't act unfazed while also desperately trying to take legal action over a rap battle. He needs to pick a side. But of course, he won't, because his fans are enabling this behavior. And now, as Drake continues dragging this out, while also trying to stage a comeback, he's only pushing himself further away from hip-hop culture. By spreading narratives that the industry is suppressing him and doesn't want him to win, he's making his fans believe that his failures aren't his fault. His new album flopping has only fueled these ideas even more. Rather than accepting the reality of his decline, he's blaming everyone else. With all of this happening, hip-hop itself is entering a new era. The way rappers handle beef and express themselves is changing, and Drake is at the center of this shift in the worst way possible. So now, I want to hear from you. Do you think Drake can ever redeem his rap legacy after all of this? Or has he already done too much damage? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it to this point in the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. Now, if you want to see how Kendrick Lamar just embarrassed Drake again by simply being a great rapper, check out the suggested video.